Alright, we got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about from yesterday's Ubisoft Forward. All in all, it was a pretty good event. We got gameplay for a lot of Ubisoft's upcoming titles, and there's some big ones coming out by the end of this year and next year that I'm intrigued by, but obviously what I care most about is Assassin's Creed Mirage. We even got some looks at Assassin's Creed Nexus, the VR game, and Jade, the mobile game. Definitely some things to talk about there, but we'll touch on that in another video. Mirage is what we're focusing on for now. Like I had hoped, we got a gameplay walkthrough. It's about 8 minutes long, and we saw 2 different assassination missions, some cutscenes, tools, etc. We even got a story trailer as well. But first, the gameplay. It opens with Basim overlooking a target in Baghdad. I've said it many times before, but Baghdad looks beautiful, and we got a really good sense of the crowd density here. There's quite a lot of NPCs. You can hear their conversations and the general bustling ambience of the city. Obviously, having a lived-in, dense city is a huge part of old Assassin's Creed, and I think Baghdad is going to serve that purpose very well. Not only with how it looks visually, but how it's designed and all the history and culture. We're going back to the Middle East, which is where Assassin's Creed started to begin with, so that's very exciting for me personally. I also like that the crowd of civilians reacts to Basim assassinating this guy by running away and screaming. Little details like that help with immersion. And as Basim escapes, he collapses this little scaffolding. We're going to have quite a lot of these interactable things around the city to help us escape, I imagine. It's something they even showed back in the cinematic trailer. Having things to interact with in the environment to aid us in our escapes or in traversal is definitely a welcome addition. We of course get a pretty good and lengthy look at free running and parkour. It looks about how I expected it to. It's not really up to the quality of the older games, and it does look a bit choppy like the RPG games. I don't know, it doesn't look quite as smooth as I hoped, but it is clear Basim has some speed to his animations, and I really like the parkour pathing and design in Baghdad. In this walkthrough, they're able to cleanly get from one objective to another throughout the city without breaking the flow of the free running and parkour, which I love. Basim makes his way back to one of the many hidden one bureaus throughout the game, which from the design looks almost exactly like how they did in AC1 with the little rooftop entrance and the resting area. I say it a lot, but I really loved the bureaus in AC1, and I'm very happy to see those finally return. We then get to see a pretty lengthy cutscene of Basim reporting back to Roshan and his fellow Hidden Ones, along with Abu Jafar, who is a historical figure from 9th century Baghdad, and is going to be providing Basim with plenty of tools and inventions. He definitely reminds me of the role that Leonardo da Vinci played in the Ezio games, the genius historical figure who helps build your weapons and tools. I did see some people complaining about the look of the character models. I'll admit, they do look a bit odd. It doesn't particularly bother me that much, but there is this kind of bizarre look to them. And again, using the technology from Valhalla, it does have a similar design in that regard. I don't know why the character models in the last few games don't look quite as real. In Unity, Syndicate, and Origins, the character models looked fantastic and really realistic. I don't understand how that technology works, of course, and it's not really a complaint, just an observation. But we then get to see Basim unlock the blowgun, which confirms the leak we had a few weeks back was correct. Very happy to see the blowgun back. It used to be a very useful and big part of stealth back in the day. It's had several different iterations as well over the years. The last time we really had anything like it was in Origins with the sleeping darts. The developers said you'll be able to unlock a new tool each time you climb a rank by completing assignments. We can see all the other tools you can unlock in here as well. There's a torch, the throwing knives, smoke bombs, poison mines, and the noisemakers. They confirmed that all of these tools will be upgradable through the skill tree, which is really nice. And with the blowgun specifically, we'll actually be able to choose if we want it to shoot sleep darts, berserk darts, or even darts that damage targets. We've had the sleep and berserk darts in the past, obviously, but I am curious how this damaging dart is going to work, and if it'll be another effective ranged option for killing killing targets aside from the throwing knives. We get a good look at the contract board where we can pick up a lot of our side quests and contracts, which we know includes assassinations, rescue missions, stealing items, etc. There are also contractor requests within all of these contracts, which is like the old games with those extra tasks you can do to get full synchronization, and it seems we'll get some money and materials for completing these contracts and extra rewards for doing the specific request. The UI looks very similar to Valhalla, which is to be expected. Doesn't really bother me, but sometimes a different UI can make a new game feel a bit more fresh. Again, not really a big deal though. As for the rewards, aside from the money, there's materials that we can use to upgrade our tools and gear. I imagine that'll look kind of similar to the RPG games where you need to upgrade the different parts of your gear. I wasn't sure if something like that would be in Mirage or if gear would be purely cosmetic, but evidently there's some kind of upgrading that can be done. I don't imagine though it'll be to the same extent as in like the RPG games with all the different stats. We can see the tokens that the developers have been talking about. In the Return to the Roots video Ubisoft put out a few days ago, they said we'd need these tokens to hire the different factions to help us blend in or infiltrate restricted areas, and it seems we'll get those from completing these contracts. Those will be what allows us to use those different opportunities and infiltration methods in these missions. We see Basm passing the time on a bench, something we saw in that first gameplay trailer, but what's more interesting to me is we can see the prompt to sit back down onto the bench and blend in. I'm sure there will be lots of benches throughout Baghdad, and it doesn't seem like you actually need other people to be sitting on the bench to blend in like it was in the older games. Seems like you can just sit on it and blend by yourself as a lonely little assassin. The benches were in Valhalla, but very sparingly, so hopefully there will be a lot to blend in on in Baghdad. It's all part of the social stealth experience. We get a quick look at Enkidu, Basm's eagle, which is almost immediately shot at by the marksman enemy type, who will prevent us from surveying the area with the drone eagle until we deal with him. I think that's really cool, and it forces you to prioritize killing the marksman so you can do some further intel on the area. And of course, Basm also has the more traditional eagle vision, which for him is called Thieves' Sense. The developers put the marksman in there so that we have to rely on the traditional sense more in stealth. You can't just sit back and mark all of your targets. You're going to have to get active and a little more aggressive. Basm's eagle vision looks really cool, and I like that you can actually see the enemy's vision cones as well. I thought that was a nice little touch. We got to see a bit of the crowd blending, which looks pretty easy and seamless to use. In the old games, the crowd blending could at times be a bit challenging and inconsistent to use as the NPCs move around or you're not in the exact right position, so hopefully this feels easy and useful to engage. The developers in the breakdown also said we can bribe merchants and different groups to create patrol blending opportunities, so I think that sounds very good. Next, we can see the tool wheel and how you can switch between tools, and I really loved this part. It looks like you can bind 3 different tools onto Y, X, and A, which is going to make it very quick and seamless to switch between your different tools. It means you won't have to bring up the tool wheel every single time. We see the sleeping dart used on this guard. Looks very similar to how it worked in Origins, and we get a good look at the new assassination animations, which I really like. This animation looks so much quicker and cleaner than Valhalla's, where Eivor pulls an enemy to the ground and then stabs him. This looks way better to me. It's quick and clean like a true assassin, and it doesn't take too long to assassinate someone and move on to the next target. Another small thing I noticed is automatic looting when you assassinate an enemy, which is just a nice quality of life thing to have. Maybe that'll be a skill you unlock or it's something you start with, I'm not really sure. We get to see Basm use the noisemaker. That's of course something pretty standard now in stealth games, but we haven't had a luring tool, believe it or not, since Unity with the cherry bomb lures, so good to have a lure back. We did have the whistle mechanic in the more recent games, but it doesn't really work the same as that lures enemies towards towards you instead of to a specific position you want them to move in. Speaking of which, I wonder if Mirage is going to include the whistle as well. I imagine it will, since it's built off the technology and assets from Valhalla. We get to see one of the high-profile assassinations here, which again looks very clean, and a chain assassination that looks similar to Valhalla. However, there's some key differences I noticed. First of all, Basm throws a throwing knife instead of an axe, obviously, at the second enemy, so it looks much faster, and most importantly, you can actually perform a chain assassination on an enemy who's detected you. Something that really bothered me about the chain assassinations in Valhalla is it wouldn't let you do them if the second enemy spots you while you're assassinating the first one, which I found dumb because that made the chain assassination far less useful, not to mention you could literally do that in Origins, but good to see that they fixed that in Mirage. I do miss the double assassinations from the older games though. Hopefully those make a return sometime in the near future, but it doesn't seem like they will in Mirage. And you see, once Basm takes out the marksman, he's free to use his eagle again. Next, they showed off the assassin's focus. I have some mixed feelings about it. I absolutely love the idea of an ability like this. It's something that I think will fit really well in Assassin's Creed. I just don't like the supernatural teleportation look of it. I was hoping it would look more like the multi-fear takedowns from Batman Arkham Knight, or even closer to how it looked in the cinematic trailer. I just wanted a more grounded look to it. But oh well, it's not a huge deal, but it did kind of take me out of it for a second. However, I do like that it's charged by getting stealth kills, just more incentive to take the stealthy approach. One other thing I wanted to point out is it looks like the control scheme is very similar to Valhalla, with the assassination button being on the right bumper and the combat moves being on the bumper and trigger, as opposed to the older games where it was with the buttons. I was fully expecting that, but hopefully they do have some alternative control schemes, because I'm not a huge fan of having assassination on the bumper. It's caused me to accidentally do a light attack instead of an assassination on Valhalla several times. But as Basm assassinates his target and escapes, we see a very short look at the combat, where he parries and is then awarded with an instant counter kill. I love this. It's almost like they're bringing some of the DNA from the old counter-based combat into the new system, where a parry or counter allows you to instantly kill your target with a counter attack. You can also see on the prompt there's an option to kick the guy back, so it seems that'll be an option whenever you get a successful parry. The poison mine seems to incapacitate this enemy and take him down instantly, although he's not dead, so I'm not sure if they just get knocked out by that or if they'll eventually get up if you don't finish them off, but either way, that mine is going to be very useful for me. We see the red smoke bomb again, and then as Basm escapes, we can see the notoriety system, where once again that leak from earlier proves to be true with the 3 different levels of notoriety. The walkthrough then ends with Basm escaping by blending into a crowd of people. You also quickly see he has the option to pickpocket this guy, but all in all, I really liked what I saw from this walkthrough. There are of course a few things that concern me, but I'd say generally this has made me even more excited for the game. It's also exciting to me that this was all just a contract. This assassination was side content. This is exactly the type of thing I want to be doing in an Assassin's Creed game, and knowing there's going to be assassinations like this in the contracts and side missions definitely makes me happy. There were some things we didn't see in this walkthrough that I was hoping to, like a black box mission or even the use of throwing knives. I know we saw them in the chain assassinations, but I wanted to see what it was like to use the tool itself. Regardless, I'm sure we'll see more as we get closer to October 12th. We did hear a little more of the soundtrack as well, which to no surprise sounds great. There were a lot of other games and announcements I'm excited about from this Ubisoft Forward that I definitely want to talk about, but as always, this is just my opinion. Let me know what you thought of the Mirage gameplay walkthrough and how the Ubisoft Forward event was for you as a whole. As always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. And other than that, thanks for watching and have a fantastic rest of your day, Assassins.